When we lose fat, we're talking about tracing the matter. Where did the atoms in that fat actually go? We could also think about the energy that was stored in that fat, but that's a different pathway that we need to consider separately. So let's think about what happened to the matter. Carbon was in the air as carbon dioxide and was converted into carbon in food, likely through photosynthesis. The carbon atoms in the food that was eaten was stored as fat in the body. As fat was lost during weight loss, the carbon atoms in the fat were eventually breathed out as carbon dioxide. Now let's think about what happened to the energy in this system. Energy from the sun was transformed into energy in the chemical bonds of your food through photosynthesis in plants. When you ate the food, the energy in the chemical bonds of the food was converted into energy stored in the chemical bonds of your fat. During weight loss, as you lost that fat, the energy stored in those bonds was released as heat and as chemical energy stored in the bonds of the carbon dioxide you breathed out. So while the pathways that matter and energy take through a biological system may look similar, they're actually talking about two different processes. Remember that when we're talking about matter moving through systems, we're talking about objects. Where are the atoms going? When we talk about energy moving through systems, we're talking about what's able to do work. How is that property being transformed? So in this weight loss example, when we're tracing matter, we want to know what's happening to individual fat molecules. The image on the upper right shows several fat cells, where the yellow part is the actual fat. And if we look at the chemical formula for a fat molecule, we see that each molecule contains a lot of carbon atoms. And remember, we're talking about atoms, so we're talking about matter. Now let's trace what's actually happening to those carbon atoms. The chemical process of breaking down fat molecules requires oxygen. In this example, if we want to break down 10 kilograms of fat, and remember that each fat molecule contains 55 carbon atoms, we would need 29 kilograms of oxygen. The carbon from our 10 kilos of fat molecules would be broken down into carbon dioxide and water, where 84% of those carbon atoms were incorporated into carbon dioxide, so that would be 8.4 kilograms of matter from the fat is breathed out as carbon dioxide. And 16% of those carbon atoms were incorporated into water, so that would be 1.6 kilograms of matter from that is expelled as water. Now keep in mind that we needed to use oxygen in order for this chemical process to take place. So to break down those 10 kilograms of fat, we used 29 kilograms of oxygen. And the matter, the atoms, were incorporated into the carbon dioxide in water that was expelled. 19.6 kilograms of that matter was incorporated into carbon dioxide that was breathed out, and 9.4 kilograms of that matter was incorporated into water that was expelled. But the same amount of matter, 39 kilograms, or 10 kilograms of fat and 29 kilograms of oxygen, is expelled as carbon dioxide and water. Now let's switch gears and think about the transformations of energy in this example. We already know that a fat molecule has a lot of individual atoms chemically bonded together. In each one of those bonds, there is stored chemical potential energy. As fat is broken down, that chemical potential energy stored in the chemical bonds of each fat molecule is transformed into other types of energy. As those chemical bonds in the fat molecule are broken, that chemical potential energy is transformed into heat energy. Also, as new bonds are created when carbon dioxide molecules are formed, chemical potential energy is stored in the bonds of carbon dioxide molecules. Again, the same amount of energy still exists in the system, it has just changed form into heat energy and chemical energy in different chemical bonds. So let's think about this change in the context of the framework we created. When we trace the matter, the atoms, in this system, we see that carbon atoms from fat are rearranged and moved into carbon dioxide molecules and breathed out of the body. And when we trace the energy, the ability to do work, we see that energy stored in the chemical bonds of fats is converted into other types of energy, such as heat, as fat molecules are broken down. In summary, we've traced matter and energy through a biological system, that of human weight loss. But there are many other biological systems where you should be thinking of the transformations of matter and energy. Can you think of any examples? Anytime you're faced with a problem about change in biological systems, be sure to trace matter and energy separately. This is critical in successful problem solving.